Get ready to be inspired. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Jackie Black, a world renowned relationship expert whose insights have transformed countless lives. Dr. Jackie is not only an acclaimed author of Meeting Your Match, Cracking the Code to Successful Relationships, and Couples and Money, but also a trusted guide for couples navigating life's highs and lows. Her blend of practical strategies and heartfelt wisdom empowers people to create deeper connections and lead more fulfilling lives. You don't want to miss this one and what she has to share. So let's just dive right in with the incredible Dr. Jackie. Hello, Dr. Jackie. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Oh, that's great. Actually, I've been so excited to have you on.
That's very kind, thank you.
So I'll just dive right into my questions. And the first question really is about love and intimacy. And I'd like to know what's one thing about intimacy that couples get completely wrong, but don't even realize it?
Intimacy is not automatic. Intimacy is not, you're going to be surprised at this.
Yep.
Intimacy is not related to love. We can love someone deeply, but intimacy is cultivated. Intimacy is deepened, and it deepens. This also might surprise you.
Yeah.
It deepens as we feel safe and safer and safer and safer. In the absence of safe and feeling safe and being safe, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, sexually, if we don't feel so, particularly women,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we don't, right? If we don't feel safe, then we're not going to be open and vulnerable. And you have to be vulnerable in order to tap into your sexual energy and in order to receive men into our bodies. You know, it's not an accident that their sexual organs are on the outside of their bodies. Our sexual organs are on the inside of our body. And we have to be very aware of all of the things that we need in order to be able and willing, but able to receive men into our bodies.
Maybe I should have started the show by saying if you have any kids under 18, now is the time for them to leave the room. But you know what you just said there, it doesn't surprise me. I don't think it really does surprise me, but I find that answer to be very, very interesting. But how does a couple know if their relationship is emotionally intimate and not just physically close?
Won't know until after some time, which is why the dating process is so important because love is not enough and love can be fleeting. What we're talking about in terms of being open-hearted and vulnerable and intimate and really stepping into relational space is developed and cultivated over time. And it's a result of how we act and interact and react with each other. And we can't know immediately. That said, I know that some people believe that they believe in love at first sight. They believe that they know when they know. And I'm not challenging those people. But
Yeah.
for the vast majority of people who don't know or aren't sure or come with some history and some baggage, there's nothing like time. Native American Indians have a wonderful way of approaching this. And that is that we really don't know each other 100%. Well, that isn't even what they say. We really don't know each other deeply until we have gone through 4 seasons with them.
Ah. Well, that's interesting. But let's go back to Dr. Jackie, what you mentioned earlier about vulnerability, because really, what's the role of vulnerability in a long term relationship and why do some people resist it?
They resist it because they don't feel safe and they don't know that they don't feel safe. Safety is not something that most people talk about. It's not something that most therapists or relationship coaches talk about. And unless people, women and men, because, let me just digress for a minute. We are in a shift, in a paradigm shift in terms of relationships. We are coming out of relationships from the 50s, 1950s, where there was rigid roles. And the paradigm is shifting into co-intimacy, meaning that men today talk about wanting to be close, talk about wanting intimacy. They never used to, right? There was a whole other setup and there were rigid roles. The rigid roles have given way to negotiated roles in relationships. And now both people are talking about satisfaction, about meaningfulness, and about co creating intimacy. So that word co creating is really important because that's what we're doing. We're both doing it. I know that you want to be intimate. You know, I want to be intimate. I'm holding the space for you. You're holding the space for me. We're co creating that space with and for each other. So vulnerability evolves, safety evolves. Several of the things related to that are we have to make all of those unconscious assumptions and expectations conscious. And then they morph from expectations and assumptions to agreements. There are a couple specific skills and tools and strategies. Couple specific.
What are those strategies?
There are many. Repairing hurt feelings, for example, crafting elegant agreements, creating a strategy for tough conversations. And I call that couple talk. And there's a very specific way to do couples dialogue and to do couple talk, which is less formal and less deep couples talk. And so couples need to really they have a toolbox, and in any given situation there are skills and strategies, tools, attitudes, there are behaviors. So for example, blaming, criticism, ridicule, name calling, all of that is off the table. And even if so suppose that you had a fight, and I have a thing about fights. I don't agree that people should fight. I think the idea of fighting fair is baloney. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But if you and I are in a relationship and you get really angry at me and you call me names or you infer that I'm not smart or you blame me or any number of things, it's going to hurt my heart. That's real. And then a week or 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 16 weeks may pass, and I'm still hurt. And if we haven't resolved the hurt, if we haven't repaired the hurt, I'm not going to want to be sexual. I'm not going to want to be open hearted and vulnerable. I may not even want to have conversations, deep conversations. That's how relationships become transactional.
Yes.
So we have to understand, recognize, and learn how to repair hurt feelings, how to really talk to each other and have the tough conversations. And we can only do that when we speak from our I think, I feel, I need, I want, and to be very self disclosing. That takes a lot of courage and that takes a lot of safety. So, everything we're talking about comes full circle back to how do we co create and hold that safe space for both of us?
Yeah. So, but after we talked about disagreements, sometimes the next stage is resentment. How do you get past that?
Yeah, resentment is a problem. It will cause rifts in the intimacy. It'll cause think of a garden hose and you've got a kink in your garden hose. It will create resentment, which is unexpressed anger, by the way. So resentment will cause a kink in the energy flow. And that's why it's so important for couples to agree to have tough conversations about everything, to clear the air, to repair hurt feelings, to come to agreements about anything, everything, even if we agree to disagree. But we do that lovingly, respectfully, responsibly. We extend to empathy. So I would say to you, I disagree with you, and I am holding this space to honor how you feel about this, what you think about this, how you want to proceed about this. We have to hold the space for each other's differences.
True. I think, though, some of the best agreements are made during pillow talk, Dr. Jackie. What do you think about that?
I think pillow talk is a very powerful time. You know why? Because people are undefended and they feel cozy and a lot of times feel safe. So
Yes.
if couples are having pillow talk, then they are able to move into that energy with each other because there's a safety that they are creating.
Yes. So, what's the most common relationship blind spot that causes people to sabotage their happiness?
There's something about connection and deepening connection. And people think that in the beginning, as they're getting to know each other and as they're building connection, that that's a risky time because you could be rejected. The person could decide they really don't want to be with you, that it's really not a good fit for them. But that's a misunderstanding. As we deepen, we make commitments and we deepen our connection, we deepen our love, our healthy dependence, reliance. We begin to trust each other's word, right? We rely on what you say is what you do is what you say. And as the relationship goes along and we deepen that connection, the risk heightens. So it gets riskier and riskier because the loss is bigger and bigger. If something happens later down the road, there's way more to lose than early in the relationship. And so when that is brought to the attention of partners so that they can really see that they're reacting to a fear and that because the conscious mind could take the relationship for granted. Well, you're here, I'm here, and this is just it. And more deeply, as we connect with each other, then the risk of loss is higher and higher.
Mm. Is there a difference between lust and love? And what is it?
Absolutely. Lust is more sexually oriented, sexually driven. Love is not a feeling. Love, yeah, no such feelings. There are five normal, natural feeling states: mad, sad, glad, afraid, and guilty. and and combinations, but only five feeling states. Confusion and frustration are not feelings, they're coping mechanisms.
So, when someone says, I'm in love with you,
Right. They are noticing that they are having feelings, body sensations, they're aware of things that are going on, there are chemicals being released, and love or being in love is the result of experiencing behaviors. So as we experience each other, we use the word love. I love you. I'm falling in love with you. It really is that they're reacting positively to the behaviors, to the combination of behaviors that they're experiencing, how they are being received, how they're seen, how they're heard, what the action, interaction, and reaction is.
okay. So, what's an outdated belief about relationships that people need to let go of now?
That love is enough. All it takes is love. Right? Love is everything. If we love each other, we can get through anything. No, I mean, and I hate saying that, but it's not true. It's not even close to being true. Love relationships require intention, deliberate intention and attention, just like a garden, right? Because I bring my energy, myself, my authentic self, my adult self. You bring your adult self, your authentic self. We step into relational space and we create our we. So essentially, there's me, there's you, there's we. And the we energy is actually a third entity. And we always have to be so conscious of our we. I always tell couples a few things. One, that when you're having a problem, check in and see, is it my problem? Is it your problem? Is it our problem? That would be the first thing. And then to never make an agreement about anything or a decision unless you check in and it works for the I, it works for the you, and it works for the we. And if you are crafting an agreement or making a commitment, it has to work for each partner, me and you, and for our we. If it doesn't, you're not finished. You have to go back to the negotiating table and keep talking. If any one of those parts takes a hit, the commitment or the agreement won't be honored, and it will cause a misalignment energetically with one of the partners.
And so I guess too, you're also saying that in a relationship, you are an extension of your partner. Would you say that?
Jackie, I don't think I would say it that way because I conceptualize each individual partner as 100% whole. And so each 100% whole person steps into relational space to co create the we.
Hmm. That's very, very true. That's a good response. So,
Cute.
what's the most important thing someone should understand about themselves before committing to another person?
There are a lot of things, there's not just one thing, and here's why. The more I know about myself, and that's self knowledge, the more I know about myself, the more I can share with you, and the more partner knowledge you have. And that's actually our job as an integrated adult is to know a lot about myself, share that with you so that we can again co-create a relationship that is respectful and responsible and that's aligned with each of us for each of us, and that's values, behaviors, understanding our history, extending empathy, a shared vision. There are so many couples who don't have a shared vision. We would not be in business, either of us as entrepreneurs, without a shared vision, without a vision of our company, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You must have a shared vision. You have to know where you're going so that you can, it's like being in a sailboat. You have to know what your destination is so that you are sailing in the same direction.
So then that brings me to another good question. If you don't have this shared vision and one person is evolving over the other, can that relationship survive that?
It depends, but it's not going to be a happy relationship. The partner who's not moving and growing is going to notice and at the least feel badly. The partner who's shifting and growing is going to feel that and is going to worry about that.
So would that impact that person's self-worth?
No, but it would impact the way they show up in the relationship and it would impact the relationship dynamic. Dynamic is another word for energy. So if one partner is growing and the other partner is not, it can become problematic. I want to say very quickly that if there's something going on in the relationship and I want to go to couples coaching and you don't, that's okay. It's more common than you would think that one partner will be ready to do personal work before the other person. In that case, you're telling your partner that there are things that you want to explore and that aren't working for you, and that you're going to go do your personal work, and that you're very open with your partner about your personal work, what's shifting, how you're going, how you're changing, what you might be letting go of, what you might be embracing, so that your partner knows all of that. They may never, I actually have a great story about this. They may never decide to do their own personal work, but they can shift and move with you to some extent. Let me tell my story and you'll see how that. So I had a client in Geneva, Switzerland, and she and her husband were both entrepreneurs and they had children.
Mhm.
And she just wasn't satisfied in the relationship and she wanted to do some relationship work and he was not having any part of it. So she said, "I think I'm going to find somebody to work with and do some work. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I feel like I want to do something." He said, "Fine." So we started to do our work and she could only work on herself and how she showed up in the relationship and how she interacted, reacted with him for herself. And after about 6 or 7 weeks, he came home early one afternoon. Our calls were on Wednesday morning. And he came home earlier in the afternoon that he might have. And he said, "So what did Dr. Jackie have to say today?" And she was very surprised by that. And she said, "I'm curious about why you're asking." And he said, "I've really seen a big difference in you." And he said, "And I like what I'm seeing." And very emotionally intelligent man. And I'm noticing inside myself that I'm reacting differently to you because of the changes that I'm seeing, and I'd like to know more. And so Wednesday afternoons, he continued to come home early, and they would have long leisurely walks and talk about her work and what she was not necessarily what I said, what she said, but
Yeah.
how she was being impacted and what the shifts and changes were. It transformed the relationship, and I never once spoke with him.
Isn't that something?
It's like a dance. If
Yes.
you and I are dancing and I change the step, we're still dancing, but we're not dancing the dance we were dancing, and we're not dancing the same dance, and we're still dancing.
Wow. That's amazing. That is a fascinating story. Let me ask you a question about past trauma. How does past trauma impact a relationship today?
Yeah, it absolutely affects relationships. It affects the person who experienced the trauma. And it affects the relationship. It can affect the relationship in many, many, many different ways. And that's why when I talk about personal work, it's so important to do our own work. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to finish your trauma work, whatever that means. You don't have to be complete. You don't have to know everything there is to know. As people do their own work, what happens is that they no longer bring with them victim mentality, right? That victim piece. Because here's an interesting dynamic. If I carry inside me being a victim, even if you're not a perpetrator, the energetic connection that gets set up is victim perpetrator, even if you're not. Each victim energy needs perpetrator energy. As we as individuals do our trauma work, one of the things we're doing is taking responsibility, separating out what happened to us versus who we are, right? We're no longer the trauma, and we can get further and further away from that. So that's one of the key pieces in a productive, I don't use the word healthy, in a productive, loving relationship is that I take responsibility and that I'm clear that everything that is created, everything that is going on between us, I have contributed to and you have contributed to.
Ah,
Yeah, you're not doing anything to me
right.
ever, ever in a relationship. Whatever is going on outside, I have contributed to and you have contributed to. If I don't like it, I need to change something. Not I don't need to change you, I need to change myself.
Right.
And I may have what is called a behavior change request for you.
Okay. So then what's one, I guess, radical way, but underrated way that couples can strengthen their connection? Because I think going to therapy is very good after listening to you speak. And whether you feel that you need it or not, it strengthens the relationship.
Yes. And for me, couples coaching is very, very powerful. Coaching is different from therapy. Therapy tends to look at the past and is a healing process. Coaching is a very active process. And the foundational piece is where are you? Where do you want to be? And how do you get from here to there?
Yeah, I was just thinking it, but in terms of, therapy versus coaching, more people should consider coaching to enhance the relationship, not
Yes.
reflect on the past, but it's for growth, as you mentioned.
And growing together.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, going together. Because left to our own devices, there isn't anywhere in the world that we can go learn about this stuff. We can go to webinars, we can listen to tapes and videos, we can read books, but there really isn't anything like sitting in the presence of a relationship professional. I work in themes and patterns. And so when I listen to couples talk, they can pick up themes. Something is not working thematically, or they're getting stuck in the same pattern over and over and over. And these are things that we can't always see ourselves. Most of the time, we cannot see ourselves.
Well, then you mentioned patterns. If someone feels comfortable or stuck but not happy, they just go through the motions in a relationship. What's the first thing that they should examine?
They should do personal reflection. I think personal reflection and couples reflection are two super powerful processes. Do you know that as human beings, if we ask ourselves a question, we answer it?
Yeah.
You can always ask yourself a question and you can get an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the very first thing you should do is say, what do I want? If I could wave a magic wand, what would be different? And then you open up possibilities that with your left brain alone, you might never come to.
Hmm.
A magic wand is very, very powerful. If I could wave a magic wand, if I could have anything I want that would be different, what would that be? What would be different? So, again, that's the centerpiece of coaching. What do I want? What do I want to be different? Another good question is what's missing?
Yeah.
And then there are two more questions. They're a little more advanced. One is if I could ask my partner to do one thing differently, what would it be? And don't ask that question unless you're willing to ask the second question, which if I could do something different that would be beneficial to me and to my partner and to our relationship, what would that be?
Hmm. Well, what's the relationship between happiness and love? Does one create the other or do they exist separately?
They exist separately. Love and another person won't make you happy. Happiness is an inside job, and each one of us sources our own happiness. And we bring happiness because we are happy. If we're not happy, that's an inside job. That's our personal work to do. Nobody will bring us happiness. And if anybody thinks that it will, then you have an what we call an external locus of control, which means that you're looking outside of you to create an internal experience. That is never going to happen. Even if you think it happens, even if you manufacture it once or twice or 50 times, happiness is an inside job. Nobody can make us feel sad. Nobody can make us feel proud. When my son graduated from the university, I didn't say to him, "You make me so proud," because we can't make somebody proud of us. What he did was he took a behavior, he went to college and he graduated. And that was aligned with my value, one of my highest values for my children. And so, right, so his behavior was aligned with one of my highest values. And so I was proud, but I sourced being proud and own that. I love that you went to college. I love that you got your degree. I know that good things will come to you because of it, right? So I had ownership of my internal experience.
So, how do you, because that just sparked another question for me, how do you describe a successful relationship? And is it different for everyone?
Yes and no. It's different for everyone because we have different visions, we have different values, and we have different ideas, concepts, beliefs about what is meaningful. Success is something that is co created. Success means that I am living my best life in your presence. You are living your best life in my presence. And together we are co creating something extraordinary.
Yes. So then, Dr. Jackie, my final question to you. If you could leave every couple with one golden rule for lasting love, what would it be?
It would be I win, you win, we win. That everything that you do, everything that you say, decisions, agreements, everything falls into the bucket. If I can say it that way, of I win, you win, we win. And there's one other piece to remember that in everything you do, everything you say, all your behaviors, verbal and nonverbal, You're either feeding your relationship or you're starving your relationship.
Wow. Dr. Jackie, thank you very much.
You are so welcome. It was my pleasure to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow. What an impactful conversation with Dr. Jackie. Her powerful insights on building strong, authentic relationships are exactly what we all needed to hear. If you found value in today's episode, please make sure to follow Dr. Jackie's work and explore her books and coaching programs for even more guidance. And if you loved this episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share or even comment so you never miss out on more inspiring content. Thank you, Dr. Jackie, for your wisdom, and thank you all for tuning in. Stay connected, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time on Jackie Denise.